Before I start this video, I want to apologize for not uploading anything recently. Trust me, I have no plans on abandoning this channel, and I'm still working hard on bringing fun content to you all. It'll just take a little bit of time for the playthroughs to continue, but they'll be back soon. I want to leave a disclaimer. This video, although backed by some facts, is opinion-based. If you have a differing opinion, that's okay, and I completely understand that, and I would love to hear your point of view on the situation. This situation has caused quite the rift in the Pokemon community, and I think it's important to hear both sides of the argument, so let me know what you think about this situation in the comments. So, E3 happened. I watched the entire E3 Direct only to hear very little about the games that I was interested in until Animal Crossing came along, and with that announcement came the news that in order to make sure that the in order to make sure that the game is what it should be, its release has been delayed. Following this came a live stream of gameplay for Pokemon Sword and Shield. They let out the bombshell that they would be taking an opposite approach from what the creators of Animal Crossing are doing. Rather than delaying the release in order to improve these games, they decided that they would just not program half of the existing Pokemon into these upcoming games, and continue to go with the holiday release. And so the hashtag #BringBackNationalDex spread across the internet. So why is this an issue? For the most part, it's because everyone has an attachment to certain Pokemon. I know I love Girafarig, Giratina, and Alolan Vulpix, but it's likely that none of these Pokemon will be in Sword and Shield. Although Cantonian Vulpix is confirmed to be in the games, that doesn't confirm the Alolan form. Also, some players like to have one of their original Pokemon team members join every game. It's nice to have that one Pokemon join all your adventures in one way or another. So, most of the issue is that each and every Pokemon is loved. Yes, even Trubbish has some fans. But another issue is the reasoning for getting rid of these Pokemon. The excuse is that they want to improve the animations for the Pokemon in these games, improve the overall visual quality of the games, and balance out the games. Now, I understand this slightly. I understand that they need a good game balance, but at the same time, it doesn't make much sense. If we're talking about the main story of the game, it shouldn't be a problem. In Pokemon Black and White, you could only transfer Pokemon from previous games once you've defeated the Elite Four, or if it's the event Celebi or Shiny Beasts. But if we're talking about the competitive aspect, they could always lower stats on certain Pokemon if they're too overpowered in these games. But that's extra work that I'm sure they don't want to deal with. The excuse of improving the animations and graphics I personally don't see it. The models from previous games are being reused. So are the move animations. I don't mind the T-posing Wingull. I think it's cute and funny, but I also think it's kind of sad that they couldn't give it better animations, or any animations, for the overworld. If anything, they could have put a different Pokemon in its place so we don't get left with a Pokemon lacking animation. Even trainer animations are being reused in this game. It's not just Pokemon animations. This gets even worse the more I look into it. I'm sure they're putting more effort into the animation of new Pokemon, but that's just a given. These Pokemon didn't exist before, so they can't just slide models from previous games into these games. But that's exactly what they're doing with older Pokemon. Now, on the graphics side of things, I mean, it's better than the 3DS games, but that's just a given because of the system's limitations. But it's really not a drastic improvement. Look at Breath of the Wild. This is what we should expect when it comes to graphics. But that's not what we're getting. Now, I do understand Breath of the Wild is not made by the same company, but look at Game Freak's other project, Town. The company is clearly capable of doing better than what they're doing on these Pokemon games. However, it's probably because they have two different teams. Team 1 is working on Town, and Team 2 is working on Sword and Shield. Clearly, given the number of the teams, town is the top priority. This could be because the Pokemon Company has been working with a lot of different companies, like Niantic and DNA. And the phone games seem to be the Pokemon Company's top priority ever since Pokemon Go. So there is no guarantee that Pokemon games by Game Freak will always succeed. So they want to work on their own original games as well. Basically, the growing amount of Pokemon smartphone games means Pokemon doesn't need Game Freak as much to succeed. So Game Freak can't rely on the Pokemon franchise forever. So they're branching off and putting more work into town instead of the Pokemon titles. Now, how do I feel about the situation? I'm not hopeful, honestly. This game is quadruple the price I paid for Ultra Moon, though that was nearly half price because my local Walmart had registered the price wrong, but it only has half the Pokemon. Not to mention, these new games are using the same models from 2013. It's sad seeing Game Freak taking shortcuts and tons of people just settling with the same quality games for a higher price. From what we can tell, they aren't using the Switch's capabilities to their advantage. If anything, they're just using the fact that these games are on the Switch as an excuse for hiking up the price. I know there's no changing the games to have the National Dex at this point. I personally want the National Dex back, and I worry that the lack of it will ruin the games. One thing that made Pokemon games last longer in the player's eyes was being able to complete the National Dex, catch every single Pokemon. Even X and Y, severely lacking in post-game content, had something to make the game last longer. And that was the National Dex. The only way I can see Sword and Shield lasting a long time is if they actually made a longer post-game. My personal favorite games, post-game wise, are Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green with the Orange Islands, Pokemon Platinum with the battle area and various other places, and Heart Gold and Soul Silver with the Kanto region and some pretty cool events like the Spiky-Eared Pichu event, the Arceus event, and the Celebi event. There are plenty of good examples, but these are some of my personal favorites. What I'm sure everyone is hoping for is that we don't get what we got in X and Y, and especially not what we got in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Don't get me wrong, the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire games were great, and the amount of legendaries available post-game was a really nice feature. My issue is the way Game Freak addressed the Battle Frontier, dangling it in front of us but not giving it to us. Just adding salt to the wound. In the end, my thoughts on the National Dex situation will differ depending on what is revealed in the future when it comes to these games. If they're getting rid of half the Pokemon, I expect it to be for a good reason. Maybe there will be more content. But I highly doubt we'll see that amazing Nintendo Switch quality animation. So if this game doesn't have a ton of content in it, I guess I'll be losing money, because November I'll be doing a blind playthrough of Pokemon Sword. Yes, despite my low expectations for these games, I'm doing this. I've been doing my best to avoid any news about Pokemon Sword and Shield. It definitely hasn't been easy, especially with the uproar about the National Dex, but I want to have the best experience with this game. My first and favorite game was Platinum, and I didn't know half the Pokemon in the game, so I want to have the same experience. Maybe not knowing any of the Pokemon is what made Platinum so fun for me. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, which I'm assuming you did if you watched all the way through, feel free to give this video a like and comment your thoughts on the video. And if you're new here, you're always welcome to subscribe. And of course, you can check out my Patreon, my Twitch, and my Instagram. All the links can be found below.